Welcome back to Warriors News Fan Report. Tonight, we're digging into a scorching hot take from Steve Kerr, fresh off Golden State's heartbreaking Game 5 defeat that sent the defending champs packing in the second round against Minnesota. With a 1-4 series loss staring us in the face and the shadow of Stephen Curry's hamstring injury hanging over every possession, Kerr's post-game comments have set the internet ablaze. He didn't sugarcoat it. Health is everything. In the playoffs, if we had Steph, we had a chance to go all the way. Maybe not guaranteed, but a real shot. Those words cut right to the core of what went wrong in the Bay. Imagine this. We steal Game 1 on the road, riding Curry's twilight quarter 30-point explosion, only to lose him midway through the second quarter with that Grade 1 strain. Suddenly, the entire heartbeat of our offense disappears, and we fumble 3 straight, including 2 jarring home losses at Chase Center. Jimmy Butler, Anthony Edwards, and a suffocating Wolves defense made us pay every time we tried to fill Stephs. Gravity vacuum. Jonathan Kuminga and Jordan Poole threw everything they had at it, but Kerr's brutal honesty exposed the unspoken truth. Without our MVP, we lacked the firepower to break through. Kerr went on to lay bare the playoff reality: health, hot hands, and a little luck. He reminded everyone that every series comes down to who can stay on the floor, who can make big shots late, and who gets the bounces. He's right. We've seen it year after year: the banged-up superstar who gets one sparkling performance, or the role player who catches fire at just the right moment. This year, it was Minnesota riding Anthony Edwards' 41-point night in Game 4, then closing us out with carved-up charcuterie of our scrambling rotations. Curry's absence loomed so large that Kerr couldn't even muster a poetic spin. He simply said, "We missed him." Plain and simple. Now let's play armchair doctor and strategist for a moment. Kerr's candor raises the burning question: what's next for Curry and the Warriors? If he's out until at least a potential Game 6, which we'll host in 3 days, we have to wonder whether Kerr's brutal takeaway signals a longer timeline. Will the medical staff push Steph to return on Sunday, taped up and limited to 15 to 18 minutes, just like our speculative Game 5 mini-Curry scenario? Or will Kerr, ever the patient architect, admit that rushing back could cost us the start of next season? The Athletics sources hint at a cautious approach. No leap of faith into a hot brace, but rather a step-by-step rehab that gears him for training camp rather than a do-or-die playoff cameo. As a die-hard Warriors fan, I can't help but flash back to 2019, when Curry gutted through an MCL tweak and we saw moments of brilliance that carried us to the brink of another title. Or the 2022 Finals run, where Kerr managed LeBron's load with surgical precision, playing our veterans in bursts to maximize their impact. If history teaches us anything, it's that Kerr will balance the present pain with the franchise's long-term pulse. Do we gamble everything on a return next game miracle? Or do we preserve our MVP for a full-strength plunge in 25? My gut says Kerr won't risk the dynasty's future on one do-or-die appearance. He'll let Curry heal and aim for a postseason home opener next year that sees us at full throttle. Hovering under all this is the swirling speculation about roster adjustments. If health truly is king, do we double down at the trade deadline on a veteran wing who thrives without Steph? Or do we trust in our young core, knowing that Curry's gravity is the force that draws the best players to this squad? Kerr's honesty about Curry's impact might even reshape free agency chatter this summer. Role players and borderline all-stars will think twice if they know we can't win without Curry healthy. That could tip the scale in our favor when courting talent next July. One final thought. Kerr's unfiltered reaction was more than a commentary on one absent superstar. It was a rallying cry. We know who we are, and we know what we need. Now it's on the front office to deliver, whether through a bounce-back campaign, a savvy signing, or a blockbuster trade that shores up our backcourt depth. For my part, I believe in Kerr's vision and Curry's resilience. We've weathered worse storms, remember 2016, and come out shining. This defeat stings, but Kerrs' brutal honesty is exactly the jolt we needed. If you're still riding the emotional roller coaster of Kerrs' candid critique and Curry's injury saga, smash that like button, subscribe to Warriors News Fan. Report and ring the bell right now, because we're about to explore every twist of how Golden State can bounce back from this gut punch and what's brewing behind the scenes for Game 6 and beyond. Now that Kerr has laid bare the cold truth, no. Steph, no shot. Let's dig into the blueprint for resurrection. First, on-court adjustments. Andre Iguodala's mentorship role will expand. His veteran instincts in pick-and-roll coverage and late-clock situations become invaluable in Curry's absence. Expect Kerr to lean harder on a four-guard lineup with Klay Thompson and Jordan Poole flanking Andrew Wiggins and Draymond Green, sprinkled with Kevin Looney's rim protection. That death lineup light aims to replicate Curry's spacing by having three reliable shooters plastered around the perimeter, forcing defenses to extend and opening passing lanes. Next, the X's and O's. Kerr will deploy more ball movement. Sets, turning every possession into a five-man weave to create rhythm. Watch for a heavy dose of elevator doors action. Two guards cutting simultaneously across the lane to simulate driveway pull-ups. On offense, he'll staggered screens for Wiggins, freeing him to attack downhill while Poole spots up in the corner. It's not Curry's game, but it's the next best approximation under duress. Defensively, Kerr must rewire the scheme. Without Curry's off-ball pressure and next-level closeouts, Green and Wiggins will need to double down on help rotations. The Warriors may shift to a pack-line variant, packing the paint to deter drives and daring the Timberwolves to beat them. From distance. If Minnesota tries to test our shooting depth, Kerr will counter with drop coverage edge guarding, allowing Looney and Kevon to funnel ball handlers into traps. We'll need to force Karl Anthony Towns into mid-range jumpers where our length can contest. Off the court, the medical and training staff are ramping up Steph's rehab for a Game 6 return at Chase Center. Word is he's undergoing daily hyperbaric oxygen sessions and blood flow restriction therapy to accelerate tissue repair. You'll see him in the practice facility this weekend, not just shooting threes, but running controlled sprints and performing resisted deceleration drills. That indicates they're testing his threshold under load while monitoring muscle response via real-time ultrasound. If he clears those tests by Saturday, we could have a limited Steph cameo on Monday, a 15-minute burst to electrify the crowd and shift momentum. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, whispers among league insiders suggest Draymond Green privately called Kerr to say, "Coach, if we get Steph back for a cameo, we could shock the world." Imagine the psychological blow to Minnesota when their underdog narrative collides with a packed Chase Center roaring, "MVP, MVP." That home court advantage could tilt every bounce, every 50-50 rebound, every loose ball into our column. And don't ignore the front office moves. Bob Myers is reportedly exploring short-term signings on the buyout wire. Perhaps a veteran 3-and-D wing to plug in for single elimination games. Names like Alec Burks or Wesley Matthews, with cheap mid-level contracts, could slip under the radar and offer shooting stability in game-winning moments. While these additions won't replace Curry, they shore up the rotation, allowing Kerr to stagger minutes and keep legs fresh for a potential Game 7. On the personnel front, we might even hear conversations about a small trade for a backup guard, someone who can run the offense if Steph's return is delayed. If a team like Charlotte is willing to part with P.J. Washington or Ish Smith, the front office could pounce, sacrificing a second-round pick to maintain backcourt continuity. It's a long shot, but the urgency of a series-saving Game 6 could override typical deadline caution. As you can see, Splash Nation, the ripple effects of Kerr's brutal honesty are fueling a multi-pronged response. On-court schematic tweaks, off-court supercharged rehab, potential short-term additions, and psychological warfare against Minnesota. The road to redemption starts Monday in San Francisco. We'll need every tactical edge, every spark of inspiration, and yes, that late-game Curry heroics that define dynasties. Stay locked in. Warriors News Fan Report will deliver every update, every injury bulletin, every locker room soundbite, and every turning point as the saga continues. So, stay tuned, because in the coming days we'll track every Curry update, every Kerr presser, and every possible roster move. On Warriors News Fan Report, we don't just report the news. We break it down like fans who bleed blue and gold, demanding the best for our team. Until next time, keep that faith alive, and as always, stay Warriors.